Hi, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in to Redirection with Terri-Karelle. It is always a pleasure to have you here with me. Of course, this show for this season is brought to you by MasterCard in association with Heineken. We just always want you to know that the priceless moments are the things that make life absolutely meaningful. And of course, we always want to remind you that you can do anything you want or dream of now. So what are we going to talk about today? I cannot wait to get into the conversation with my guest. But just in case you have stumbled across this page for the very first time, I am Terri-Karelle. You can find me across all social media platforms. And you can also visit my website, terri-karelle.com, to learn a little bit more about me. As usual, if you have anyone in your community, whether school, church, work, or play, that you think is deserving of being in the redirection seat, please go ahead, click on the Contact Us page on terri-karelle.com and say, hey, we know somebody that we think you should get to know. Of course, keep those conversations going using the hashtag TKRedirection. For those of you watching on YouTube, do you like my set and my space? Thank you so very much, Spaces JA. And if you see the bubble popping up above me and you see Tony Aiken in that bubble, she is our sign language interpreter because, quite frankly, inclusion matters to us. So thank you for the ratings. Thank you for the reviews. Thank you for all of the encouragement that you send each and every week. My guest in the redirection seat I have wanted to interview for quite some time. He is the kind of person who believes in starting small, honoring those small roles, working very hard, taking every step inch by inch and moving into the next space and leveling up every single time. Who am I speaking of? Peter Mohan, branch manager at Scotiabank, Constant Spring. I am so happy to have you in my redirection seat, my branch manager. Peter Mohan, how are you?
I'm excellent.
You're always smiling, by the way. I think that's one of the things that makes you so pleasant to deal with. Now, just for the purposes of my listeners and my viewers, if you can picture this, early in the morning when you're passing the bank or if you decide to go into the bank, there's, usually like this long line of people waiting. A man emerges, well-groomed, nice suit, has a bullhorn, and, welcomes you in the most beautiful way.
Yes.
That I've often told Alex, who is my executive liaison, that it reminds me of you coming on a plane, sitting down, and then hearing, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, but it's a part of hospitality that you don't always get.
That's correct.
And you're always the man on the bullhorn.
That's right.
Did you always think that you would be, for example, a branch manager of a bank?
Not really. Growing up, I think my, if you want to say quote unquote, ideal career would have been a pilot. But when I was at St. George's College, I had a opportunity, what we call Careers Day.
Yeah.
And a branch manager came, and his name is Peter as well. That looked, when he came and he spoke to me, the whole, in terms of the class, that connection was made there and then. When you talk about dressing,
yes,
he's
sharp.
the man, sharp. And, I just saw myself in his shoe. Mm-hmm. And I think, the love for banking maybe started there, if you want to say develop. And the journey, I would say, started because I just wanted to get in.
Yes.
And when I say get in, finish high school, have my O-levels, and I got, I know someone
Hold on, O-levels for, because when I say CXC, they correct me and tell me say CSEC. And when I say A-levels, they tell me it's K.
So it's CXC.
Right. Okay. So we're just letting people know, common entrance babies,
that's
CXC.
what it is.
For the younger generation, CSEC.
That's correct. So someone at church, I told her I needed a job, and she told me that, I need to call this gentleman. When I called the man today, he told me that I need to come down to the bank. And when I got there, he said he had a job. And when I asked him what was the job, he said the job was a porter.
Yes.
And when he said that to me, I said, I want it. And he said, but you are qualified. I said, that's okay. I need the job. So he was astonished, really, because his name is Jack Anderson, may his soul rest in peace. So Jack said, but you're qualified, but you're taking a porter job.
Why?
But you don't know what it's about. And right then and there, I heard my dad's voice that all you need is just a foot in the door. And I said, okay, I'll take it. And then,
hold on, because you mentioned dad, you mentioned high school. I want to take it earlier years before we get to this attitude and this approach that you have for just getting in. Even if I'm qualified for something more, I will take the thing that is on a lower level because I know it's going to be temporary.
It's simple.
And I'll be moving my way up. Talk to me about your formative years. You know, which part of Jamaica you hail from?
So I grew up in a, if you want to call it, the Garrison community. And it's called Kingston 13, off Walton Park Road. And real inner city. Mother and father never had it, but the respect was there. And as a result of that, you weren't interfered with by people in the community.
Got you.
Because my father was that strong figure that they respected. So growing up in that setting, I saw everything.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that I saw everything, I remember going to schools some days, and when I go to school, I'll tell them about what is going to come in the news.
Wow.
Because of what transpired. And then when it happened and I go the next day, they say, yes, I saw it.
Exactly how you said it, right?
Yes, because growing up in that community, you saw it all. You saw, killings, just about everything. That the violence was there, and I grew up thinking that Friday the 13th was real.
Wow.
Because I remember one Friday the 13th when you're talking about maybe from about 3 a.m.
Yes.
till maybe about 9 o'clock in the night, it was just killing. And it was just,
what was
mind-boggling.
What was that like for you in terms of, how old would you have been at this time?
I was in my teens. I would say maybe about 14, 15.
Were you ever afraid that one day that person that they speak about on the news could possibly be you?
Sure, because I interacted with some of these guys who are doing these things. I remember I tell persons that the very first time I saw an illegal gun. Now you're, acknowledging, it's illegal.
Right.
It's a friend who brought it to the house. And right there and then, when you get of age and you're looking back and say, but I could be a dead man. Yes, because here is it, I'm involved in something that could cost me my life. But, thank God I was blessed.
And it's inexperience and it's naivety. Absolutely.
And it's something that you can tell now to, bring the idea to persons out there that, guess what? You need to be smart in what you do.
Correct.
And be aware, because I call it emotional intelligence now, but I call it street smart then. Because if you think about it, you're in a setting, you can't operate as if you're not with them. You can't say, okay, I don't. You have to know how to maneuver. So people say you're hypocrite. I say it's diplomacy. So when you think about life, you have to know what to do when to get along.
Right.
Because we are in a society that, if you think about it, every day I look forward to the news in the night because you're going to see something new every night. And you grow from these examples. You can share with someone, and whenever you get any messages there, it's for you to take and share with someone else.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that even while you were growing and seeing all of this around you, did you ever have to lose a friend?
Yes, man. If you grew up in that setting and didn't lose a friend, then it would be useless if you think about it. Because the friends I had, and when I say friends now, I would say acquaintance. I don't want to classify them as friends.
Part of the community, maybe.
Of the community.
You grew up seeing them on the corner.
Yeah. So when things happen, and I guess it made me the person I am today, in that it made me tougher. Because when you lose someone who you used to talk to, you can just imagine the next day, all those things going through your head. This could have been me. But, it makes you, a little tougher in terms of moving on. And, some insight is there as well that, okay, life is fragile. You have to cherish the moments. and have to make the most of each day.
Peter, do you think, and certainly you can't speak on behalf of all children who grow up in garrisons, but a lot of them have experienced what you have, whether it is witnessed murders or passing bodies as they're going to school or catching their bus, or you have students who can't go to school sometimes a week or days, depending on if there is gang-related, war across lanes. The trauma, the grief, the mourning, the counseling, because a lot of the time these students grow up, for those who actually make it out, they grow up but they still carry the trauma. How were you able, did you even realize that you were in the presence of trauma?
I don't think so.
No, that we're talking about it,
No, there was no realization with that process. I think one of the things that kept me, I grew up in the church. So while my mom and dad, well, my mom started afterwards, but my mom and dad, they weren't, if you want to say, the churchgoers.
Yes.
But they ensured that you
go to church. The Jamaican parents that.
So for me, I mean, every day I think about it, the church built me.
Nice.
I remember we used to have days where the containers would come, and I had the responsibility of stripping the containers and making care packages for persons in my community. And that gave me that sense of satisfaction. So, being in the church was my escape from what was happening in the community. And, even the people who you were able to, while it's not my funds that was used to purchase,
you were the messenger.
I am the messenger.
Right.
Yes. And I was the one who made these packages and was handing out to persons in the community. So, there was a sense of joy that I was able to do that. And, it gave me that feeling of satisfaction. I just love to see someone who was less fortunate with that big smile on their face when they get, sometimes it's the peas in the bag or the canned items in the bag. And you know that it's going to last for a week or maybe a month.
Correct.
Until the next shipment
care package
comes.
or somebody helps.
Yes, yeah.
At that moment in time, I know you said when you were at George's.
Yes.
That's when you were just like, okay, wow, there's something called, banking, branch manager. This looks interesting.
Yes.
But before that, you wanted to be a pilot.
Yes.
Had it always been a pilot, or was it some other exposure?
No, I just love to see an aircraft in the air. Just that feeling that, and you have watched this, because I think it's when I was an adult I went on an aircraft.
Yeah.
To show you, my children are more fortunate than me.
Privileged they are, yeah.
I mean, I remember my son going in the cockpit and saying, wow. But so I always had that idea of, sitting in the cockpit and I was pulling back that lever.
Yes.
And just flying wherever in the world. So that was my ideal job.
But then that dream was redirected.
Yes.
When you met dapper gentleman who introduced you. Peter Walters, who introduces you to the world of banking. So at this point in time, you are in high school.
High school.
Do you decide, okay, I'm going to go and pursue accounting?
Because those days, the entry level, like now it's a first degree, those days you could get in with your CXCs.
God, the good old days.
Yes, and so
now it seems like you have to have a PhD.
Almost
to get access.
Almost. So hearing him speaking in terms of what banking is about, I just felt that connection.
So you decide, all right, I get my O levels.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take my O levels, and I'm going to see if I can get a job.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as I said, when I got there, the job that I thought I wanted was like to be a teller. But when I got there in the morning and the gentleman say, this is the job, and he told me what it entails, I didn't even bat an eye. I said, I'll take it. So he was a little bit astonished, like he was saying, but you're qualified. Why are you taking this job? But as I said, all I could hear is my dad said, all you need to do is to get in.
So you get in.
Yes.
You get the job.
I get the job.
And what is that experience like?
So this job, if you think about a handyman, that's what the porter is. So he would fetch the mails, and he would take the mails from this bank to the other bank. He would pick up a check from there, and he would go to the next place. And so your errands in the days are nothing major.
Yeah, it's really what we would say. It almost sounds like a bearer.
Yes.
You're literally
just moving things. So they need something, they call you, they say you need to go pick that up somewhere, and you just make the trips. And so for me, because I knew what I wanted, my aim was to get that out of the day early, because I know exactly what my day is like. So they would say, you need to go IVB, well, no longer.
Well, at the time.
Yes. And the different banks. So you know what your schedule was like. So for me, I did them quick, because my aim was to come back to learn something new. Because I already had my purpose, you know. I'm not doing this for long. I'm only doing it for a short time, and whatever opportunity comes afterwards,
yes,
I'm going to take it.
Is it that you knew exactly what you wanted in terms of, okay, I want to move from porter and maybe graduate to the teller, or were you now looking at, hey, I can become a senior manager? Where was your mind at?
My vision was always step by step. So even when I sit here now,
yes,
in my current role,
yes,
I know where the next role I want it to be.
Yes.
So if you think about it, I wasn't looking at 3 roles down the road. Nah.
You just looking at
the next. Because I'm saying when I get in the second I get in the next door, I'm starting to look at the other one.
I love it.
Because I'm saying it's just a matter of time. So,
and you know what? I appreciate that. I don't mean to even cut your train of thought, because I think a lot of persons get caught up in the bigger picture.
Yes.
The big role, the big office, the big title, the big responsibility. And for me, I've always said that if you cannot honor the small roles, you cannot honor the big roles. If you cannot master and learn and refine and improve in the small role, how can you step into the shoes of the big role? And so the idea that you have in terms of come in, get started, and then let's level up and get to the next step, I think is one of the most practical ways of growing.
And it's a whole matter of humility as well. So if you think about it, so while I was in the porter role, I'm saying, I'm watching. It's like driving for me. Before I got my license, I used to sit in any vehicle that I'm in, and I'm watching the driver as to what they're doing.
Yes.
So I watched them pedal to pedal, how they turn.
Yeah.
So when I started to learn to drive, I was quick.
Points of reference, yes.
So the same for me, when I finished the porter work in the days, I used to sit down and I watch what the tellers are doing. So I will say, okay, there. And I always want to help. So if you think about it, you heard about servant leaders.
Yes.
So
I think they're one of the best category of leaders to be.
And that's what I am today. So if you think about it, was entrenched then to now. So even at the office now, I will do some chores there that people will look on and I say, but you're the manager, how you do this? Because no task.
And I see you on the floor all the time. Like I literally see you more on the floor than I see you like in your office.
That's correct.
And anytime people stop you and ask you questions, which I know you could easily just say, okay, take that ticket, go to that. I've always seen you say, how can I help you?
Because at the end of the day, service is what sells.
Yes.
All institutions offer the same products, but the service that you offer is the differentiator. Yeah.
So you're watching the teller them because you're coming for them job.
Not really coming for the job. I know. But I want to do that someday.
Yeah.
So I remember, as I said, they would have different tasks in the evening that I would say, let me help you with that. So they would have to, calculate all the checks, and they would have to send that off to the clearinghouse. I say, I want to help. I take it and I'll do, and I'm moving fast and brisk. And I didn't know that I had their supervisor was watching me.
You. We always talk about this, we always tell people, don't perform because people are watching.
Yeah.
But do not underestimate that while you are doing what you do, people are always watching. Yeah. Talk to me about that.
So O'Neill Scott is his name. And O'Neill said to me one day, I need for you to come over to the telling department. And then when he said this, because I was doing, if you want to say, the observation and helping with the little chores here and there for a little while.
Yes.
And he said to me, on Monday when you come to work, I need for you to come over here. So I'm saying, okay. But he didn't say anything to the man who's responsible for me.
Your direct report.
You getting me now? So The Monday morning is here, and I'm sitting over telling. And the man who is in charge of me in porter role said to me, what are you doing over there?
How dare you?
And I'm like in two minds now. And I said, I thought he too. And then now, O'Neill's tell him that, okay, I need to find over here. It's a transition.
Was there ever a time, because you didn't apply for that role?
No.
And it's interesting because we've often said that when you operate and you function in excellence in no matter the role you are given, and people see it, it makes room for you. Yeah. It opens doors and windows and gives you opportunities that you don't have to send an application for. You don't have to be qualified necessarily for.
Because your work speaks for itself. I always say, it's like we have behavioral and functional competencies.
Yes.
Functional competencies, you can learn that. But your behavioral is where it matters. Once persons see you behaving in a particular way, certain things are just going to connect.
Talk to me about attitudes. Did you experience, which sometimes can happen, when someone graduates or levels up from a lower leveled position to a higher level position without going through tenure, rigor, application, vetting process? Sometimes when you get to the new level, people look at you like, what?
Well,
how the porter or the bearer man,
well, funny
why
enough,
is he here? Did you experience that?
I have the exact example. Let me tell you why.
Don't.
So listen now. So when I moved to Tellin, there was another, if you want to say another level to Tellin, which we call it remittance, which is the bulk takes place there.
Yes.
And while I was in that department, I was the last person in that department. But based on what you just shared in terms of, I always try, and this is just a style of mine, is that I want to be the best at what I do.
Yes.
And
excellent.
Because as you said, you don't know who's looking on. And I remember when the manager at the time told me that, come Monday morning, we're going to take you out of this department and I'm going to put you in the customer support, which is a promotion. And when I came the Monday morning, and I told the guys in my department, good morning, no one answered. And that hit me like a brick, because I'm saying, I wasn't the one who promoted myself.
You never asked for it?
I never asked for this. But it happened. And, you know, it made me even tougher. Yeah. Because I'm saying to them, I thought these persons were my friends.
People are your friends until you start to threaten them. Even if it is not your intention to do so. I find that people are okay with you when you're on their level or when you're below them. The moment you start to kind of climb your tree and you start to get too high,
it's a difference.
It becomes a problem. But it also exposes people who really were not your friends to begin with.
That's right. Your true color comes out.
Wow. Yeah. What was that transition like? Considering that was the welcome versus the fact that you're going to come in and you're going to do the work. What did that transition make? Is it that people just kind of said, well, if you can't beat them, join them? Or did they just literally...
I think after a while, I got that. And I smiled because I remember even going to do a talk to same team members at another location. And there was this one person who was in that team who treated me that way.
Yes.
When I finished the talk, she came to me and she said, can you tell me what are some of the things that you do to excel? And right in the back of my head, I remember how I was treated. And I just forgot about that. And I just told her, you know, these are the things I think would, you know, contribute to your growth. You know, so I didn't keep it. Allow that to slide.
I think it's always best when you let it go, because the problem was never you to begin with.
Never.
I think taking up burdens and carrying burdens and ill feeling and bad feelings because of how someone else treats you actually impacts you,
of course,
far worse. I think it is letting it go and being like, well, that's your burden, your cross to carry.
I always tell people that when the day ends,
you
just need to have a clean heart. It's just simple. Don't carry baggages.
Amen.
Because we don't even know if we're waking up tomorrow.
True. But Peter, I know banking is hard. Peter, I know banking is one of the hardest, most ungrateful careers ever. You're dealing with different personalities. You're in a career that you're not given much grace or room for human error.
That's correct.
You're also managing people, processes, systems, and and customers.
Yes.
And yet still I always see you smiling. How are you able to deal with challenges? Apart from the fact that we already know you are tough as bricks and you're gonna figure it out. Honestly, like, how do you tackle challenges? And is there any one challenge that you have gotten in this lifetime that you thought was close to breaking you?
I think it's my mindset. I mentioned about humility.
Yes.
And I think it starts there. I want to even take you back to George's days, where I remember going to Gold Street, to the Golden Age home, to provide, if you want to say, aid to the persons who are there. So we're talking about shaving, feeding, reading,
right.
everything. And just to see how, you're able to impact their lives, does something for me. So that love for people is there. So I always love to see a smile.
Yeah.
Because I say smiling is contagious. Just
Yes.
like when you yawn and someone yawn back, and you
Literally.
say, literally. You say, how is that possible? But challenges come every day in my work. But I always think that your experience, and if you don't know how to do it, you can rely on someone else who would have done it before and build on that. Because they say Rome wasn't built in one day. So whatever challenge...
And is this regardless of your title?
It doesn't
because
matter.
sometimes I find the higher some people go, they almost feel as if they have to have all the answers. And at a conference, it was a CEO from out of Bermuda who said it perfectly well when she said that she knows that she will not know everything, will not have all the answers or the solutions. And it is because of that reason why she leans on the people who do, and then they solve together.
Because you think about it, most leaders are vulnerable. And, yes, it's a fact. So we have to find ways, even if we don't know it, because you're helping someone, If you think about it, if you're this person that, quote unquote, seems like if you know everything, people will say, they will even start questioning that. If you don't know it, just say you don't know, and you will get back to them. But one thing, I remember we used to have what we call a service promise.
Yes.
And the one that is I'm most fond of is follow through and keep your promises. So if you think about it, whenever you have a scenario, you don't know something, you say to the person, I don't know, I'll get back to you, but make sure you get back to you.
Follow up, keep your promise.
Yes. And that I found to be, just so important.
So that's your secret sauce. That is the secret sauce.
Yes,
Okay,
secret sauce. Because when you think about it, as I always say to persons, if you take out the persons who work in my institution and put them in another institution, it's the people who makes the difference.
Correct.
Not the building. Yeah, the building will have its prestige and what it's known for, but it's the people. And if you think about it, if the people are able to do things a particular way, you're going to get the exceptional results.
Absolutely. So I can understand you're a man of service, you're a man of excellence, you are a servant leader, you get the promotion, you are now in the customer support.
Yes.
First day, the people them definitely say, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You're not one of us.
No.
You can't sit with us. You're not supposed to be here.
As I said, Terry, I remember going home. I don't think I had lunch that day when it happened. Because it was just so, like you saw these persons like they're with you. For this to happen, you just feel
It's
betrayed.
It's there.
And I say, it's one of those things. So I think that I grew from that to say, okay, while I have persons who would consider to be close, I'm not going to allow anyone else to let that happen to me. So I'm in this new role. And this was, every time I think about this department, I have to smile because it made me even better.
Yes. It's funny how that works when people think that they are sabotaging,
Yes.
they think that they're ruining, when what they're helping to do is to galvanize.
Beautiful.
To strengthen.
Beautiful. There was this one moment in that department that to this day, I every time I think about, you see my smile now? So this particular department, we did most of the bulk processing. We used to do payrolls for, JPS, and then those days you're talking about telephone, TOJ.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah, so you see I'm taking you back.
TOJ, Peter? Just
TOJ, okay.
Just like, what?
So I remember this particular, that we used to have, before we had, if you want to think about we had a roundabout that's Porter Simpson Square. And whenever you have rain, and we have a heavy gush, the persons who live in Portmore are not able to come over. I was the only one living in Kingston in that department. So that department had 4 desks. Pity they didn't know. Each day, while I have 1 desk, I learned to do everything on all the desks. Okay? So you see where this is going.
Opportunity.
Beautiful.
It's opportunity.
So this day in question, rainfall on the weekend, Peter Mohan is the only one in the department and his supervisor. Okay? All the desks need, nobody is to help.
You need to do this. Can you fill in and do that?
I just did all. Had my lunch at my desk. So when they come the next day, they ask me, where did I get help? And I said, no one came.
Mighty God, you should have said, God. That's what happened.
Yes.
And the angels that came to encamp around and so listen.
And I can tell you, I got a personal note from the CEO then. I still have it. And, it was just an awesome feel because, like I saw this coming. And, after that, I was promoted again. And
it's people like you, people don't like for true.
And
especially they've been in a position for a good while and you just come in with your smiley, servant self.
And why you say it, Terry, I think it's real.
Oh, no, it is.
And
it is.
Yeah, but I always say to people, the same thing I do, you can do it too.
It's where their energy is, though.
Yes.
I think, and it's interesting because I was having another conversation with another guest, and literally it's always that if most of the persons would take that time, that energy, that effort, that anger, and rechannel it and figure out how they can produce, how they can produce at a high level, upskill, improve, perform, we really wouldn't be having this discussion.
No.
But because the focus is on the wrong place.
Yes.
That is why it continues to happen.
Yeah, so...
So you get promoted to what position?
So I move from there now to what we call customer service. So those days... So like now, everything when you walk in a bank is one level.
Yes.
So when you think about telling, the higher level from telling would be the customer service. So they do minimal cash transaction. They do like the drafts that you come in to purchase. They do the wires. So they do, if you want to say, the higher stuff.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm in that department, and my aim as well, to excel. And I'm doing my thing. And about that same time, the company decided that we're going to launch a product.
Yes.
And that's called Scotia Mint, you know it as.
Yes.
So it's a Scotia insurance piece.
Yes.
And I guess based on how I interact with customers. Oh, before I got there, I remember a branch manager realizing, okay, that's the way I'm able to interact with customers.
And engage.
He said, you're going to start what we call a single transaction line. So you only can do one transaction in the line.
In and out.
In and out. What amazed me is that persons would come in the line, do one transaction,
and then come back in the line.
Join back the line. And I'm like, really, people? It's something else. I remember one day the manager came to me and he said, you realize that persons are doing that? I said, yes. He said, because you're moving so quick. And you're
personable.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're smiling.
Yeah. But so we moved from there, and as I said, I'm now a Scotia insurance agent, selling what we call Scotia Mint. That was the name of the product.
I remember it.
And believe me, Terry, that was like the game changer.
Really? How so?
Because, so it had a little investment and it had insurance. But I made my name in that company because whatever the quota is, I'm going to meet it.
Peter, you know what you come in like when you go prize giving? You ever go them graduation ceremony and it's one picnic get called? I know people watching the program going Terry taught the things. One name for science, social studies, religious education, and if you want to even talk about always on time, never absent.
That's me. No, those two things are things I'm fond of. So they will tell you, I'm never late for work.
None of this surprises me, by the way, apart from the fact that I'm getting a deeper dive into your journey. But every interaction I've had with you, even the ones that I never had with you directly, but just observing you, has always been one that made me go, wow. He's definitely different. Made different, anointed under the blood, clearly.
So I attribute a lot of my success to my mom. Because my mom is one of those, what you call the prayer warrior.
Yes.
So like, for instance, sometimes I have the challenges, I would just say to her, so like, she doesn't live here now, she lives abroad, but every day, barring none, she sends a prayer. And I ask her how she's able to do that. It's like she have a BF in place, that she just knows that, there's some days I'm moving so fast I don't even get to read. But I know I'm going to read before the day is out. So,
Beautiful.
So those little
Mom.
things.
You raised a fine young man. You did a great job, Mom.
So those things, just makes me marvel.
So Scotia Mint, game changer. You make your name. You're making your mark.
Yes. So, and, I always say to people that, like you have motivational talks. So we used to have a lot of those where persons would come in and they would share whatever message. I always look forward to those seminars. So we have quarterly sessions, and quarterly sessions is where you would be rewarded for your quarterly performance.
Yes.
And there was one trophy, they call it conservation rate. So what that is, it looks at the number of policies you sold and how many of those you close. So the conservation rate would have to be, I think it was about 95% or more. And every quarter.
Employee of the week, employee of the quarter.
I'm going home with my basket because I made sure I sell to needs. So now we call it needs-based selling. I'm not going to sell you something that you don't need.
That won't benefit you.
No. And I'm not selling you for you to close it. I want you to see the real purpose of it. I remember one story where a gentleman bought a policy like, say, January, and maybe before the year is out, he passed. And it's the little insurance that was there that the family was able to use to cover. And that gave me that sense of satisfaction, knowing that I was able to do something that helped the family.
Let me ask you this, Peter, because you've spoken about, the successive promotions, that you were getting. Not that you were necessarily applying or saying, oh, that I'm going for, but the fact that you were so good in the one before, that people who were looking said, oh, he's an asset, let's move up. Which brings me to the question of imposter syndrome. We have a lot of persons who are very good at what they do, Peter. And the moment they're given the opportunity to level up or go to a higher position, there's this fear of, I am not ready, I'm not enough, I'm not qualified enough, will I fail? And they talk themselves out of it. Did you ever feel this way as you're getting, and I mean, it may seem like, easy stakes, low stakes at the bottom, but you're starting to move up the chain. Is there ever a moment, or was there ever a moment when you were like,
I don't know if I can
boy,
do this.
I know if I get in it, I'll do my best job, but I still don't know if I am the man for this. And if you ever had that thought or that moment, how did you overcome it?
It's natural for you to feel that way. Because they always say, like, for instance, public speaking. If you think about it, the second you're going up on stage, the butterflies, everything is flying through. But the second you start to speak, they go. And I guess maybe that's why they call it butterflies.
Well, they go for you. I'm sure there are people who will disagree that they actually go. But I understand what you're saying.
So, it's just the mindset for me, though, where I say to myself, I always say, with Christ in the vessel, I will smile at the storm. And everything you do in life, I say, it's all a part of the script. So it's the Lord directs my path. So if you think about it,
you're going to step through with your faith.
It's simple, because it's only the Lord knows that this was going to happen, and He channeled me in this direction. He's not going to leave me alone.
So I'm of the same opinion with the pivoting that I've had to do in my life when veterinary medicine closed because of accreditation issues after coming home with my papers and saying, I want to know practice, I want to do the exams. And they say, no, we don't accredit students who study veterinary medicine in Cuba. My mother was just like, what are you going to do? This is you just did 6 years in Cuba. You learn everything in Spanish, book in Spanish, exams in Spanish. Now you come home and you can't do nothing. And I literally said to her, God is not going to bring me this far.
And leave me alone.
And leave me. In fact, any door that opens and any window that opens, whether I am qualified or not for it, it has to be that he has already equipped me with everything I need. That is going to be my toolkit that I will open when I step through the door. But I have to step through the door first.
He provides all our needs. I always say it. I think even the song, you think about it. We tend to question a lot of things. And I say life is very fragile.
Yes.
I think it's the other day I was at a funeral and I looked at it, and it's real, where you look at the day you were born and that dash in between and the day you die, and it's that dash that matters. So, when we think that we can't do something, the fact that you got the opportunity, just do it.
Yeah.
The Nike sign.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Because the fact that you're given that opportunity, you have to be doing something right. Yeah. It never happened to the other person, it happened to you.
So make the most of it.
So make the most of it.
All right, Peter. So you are making your mark. You're employee of the day, week, month, quarter, year. Yeah. What happens next?
So
from the Scotia Mint product.
So from the Scotia Mint, so that's only one product we had.
Yes.
So we moved on to that, where I became the unit manager. So I had a couple of branches that now reports to me. So I'm given the charge.
The porter who used to take people mail from one branch to the next.
Yes.
Is now managing the branches.
Yes. So the officers in the different locations.
I'm going to send everybody to you for a loan, Peter. Let me tell you. Continue.
Yes. So I am now responsible. So the main role I would have to hire.
Yes.
Had to train and develop.
Yes.
I had to coach. Just about everything. So my office was located in Ocho-Rios, and I had branches like Sentence Bay, Ocho-Rios, Highgate, Linstead, and Port Antonio. And so I had to plan my route. So where I would go. So while I'm domiciled in Ocho-Rios,
yes,
I would work it that nearer to Friday, I'm on my way back home. So it was a bittersweet, because the family side of things.
Well, I was about to ask.
Yes, the family side of things, I wasn't there much because I was away.
And it's a question I was going to ask, because it is the cost of excellence as well.
Yes.
It's a cost of expansion. It's a cost of growth, where you don't get to keep everything on the same level at the same time. Yeah. There has to be some
discomfort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So hats off to my wife. I mean, down to this day, she supports me for everything I do. And, I don't think I would be where I'm at without her in my corner. No.
How long have you been together?
So this year is 25.
Jeez. Go, wifey. I love it.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So yes, thank you. So, I mean, everything I do, she supports me.
That's beautiful.
I say to her, she does her master's in international communication, and I say she's a perfectionist.
Wow, so there are two of you in the family?
No, man. I mean, well, no,
because I'm like, so the two of you just excellent.
She is at what in terms of even her writing style, is just impeccable. I mean, I take my hats off to her. So as a result, if I'm writing something and I'm in a hurry, I rather not to show her, because I know she's going to cut, and I can't bother with that. So, but hats off to her. I mean, she's and I think that's important. The wing beneath my wings. I think that's important. Yeah. I think a lot of the time relationships don't work out when one person is leveling up and moving into spaces of expansion. And if the other party does not understand, it will break. Does not believe in the process and the sacrifices that might come with it. Yeah. It can break. So good going. So I leave from there in terms of managing those units, and then I guess right there again, as you said, maybe because I'm excelling, the bank decides to put me on what you call a management trainee program. Yeah. So right there and then now you get exposure in different areas of the bank
yes.
to grow you. So you go in operation, so you'll go to one branch to get some exposure there.
So it's a deeper dive.
It's a deeper dive.
On a bigger level.
On a bigger level. Because after this now, you're going to be assigned.
You're going to be assigned.
So you remember when before offset, you asked me about St. Thomas?
Yes.
My first branch assignment.
No, don't joke. You're joking.
I'm serious. You see? Look at that.
Wow.
My first branch assignment was the Morant Bay branch.
Beautiful.
Yes. And that was just, an awesome experience.
What's the best advice you've ever received? Whether along your personal journey or your professional journey, what's the best advice that you have received that you have held on to it? Besides what Daddy said about you get one foot.
Door?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just remain humble.
Mm-hmm.
And I think persons would say, the older people say the humblest calf suck the most milk.
Yes.
And I believe that because humility goes a far way.
Mm-hmm. So
if you think about a leader, the high and mighty thing, don't do it. Because
you will have a high and mighty fall.
So today you might be seen as this, but tomorrow you could be on the flat. And depending on how you got up there,
mm-hmm.
you'll be lonely when you fall.
Mm-hmm.
So when you remain humble, a lot of things start happening for you.
Yeah.
The humility will make you will gravitate towards
mm-hmm.
you. And day in, day out when I think about it, I can't stop being humble because I know the value of that.
Beautiful. I'm sure you have many priceless moments. In fact, your story is one of a wow. It's a wow moment. Mm-hmm. Along this journey, what is a priceless moment that you remember that will constantly make you smile or constantly reassure or reinforce you?
Along this journey,
yes.
Wow, there's so many.
I figured you would have many.
There's so many.
But if you could pick one, a priceless moment of yours.
I would think that has to be when I was able to develop other officers to take on higher roles. So in recent times, I would have started off with, I would call persons who I didn't see them in a particular role, and I was able to mentor them. And today, they're now in a senior role.
Nice.
Because of, what I would have maybe said to them, whatever coaching I would offer, just a little tidbits.
Yeah.
And, that gives me an awesome feel. Why? Because I always say to them, if you think about it, if I have done 30 years in banking, although I look young, there's going to be some point in time where I'm going to go on retirement.
Yes.
Because that day will come for all of us.
Correct.
And I say to the younger ones that, I want to know that I would have helped to develop you to take on what is ahead of us. And
that you will do the same.
And you will do the same.
For the new generation coming in.
So when you think about it, you're sending down the lift to bring someone else up. Because these young, and it's not only one we're talking about. You're talking about a number of young persons. Helping them to make that step, that transition, and they even express it at times that say, it's all because of you this happened.
Yeah.
So I would say that is maybe the most treasured moments for me, knowing that I would have contributed to someone to grow to the next level.
The Peter Walters, you said? Peter
Walters was the branch manager then.
Peter Walters, did he have the opportunity to see your growth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So before he left the bank, yes. And even today's date, we'll talk.
Really?
Yes. So he would say sometimes that he's not responsible. But pity he didn't know that, just that
he was
talk.
The catalyst.
Yeah, he was the catalyst. And we live our life each day. If you think about it, there are different messages that come from different persons.
Yes.
You just have to take it and run with it.
And filter the ones that do not serve you.
Because
and hold on to the ones that do.
It's just like when you think about the seeds. Some going to fall and
barren ground. Yes,
yeah.
Sir.
And as such, you have to say, okay, I will take this. It's just like Peter Mohan that you see here. There are different leaders that help to build me.
Correct.
Because I would have seen someone in action. I would take a little bit from the likes of a Minna Israel.
Yes, I love Minna.
Roger.
Hi, Minna.
Okay, Roger Kogel. So I take things from different persons.
Yes.
And intertwine that with me. and this is what you get.
I think you're a fantastic person.
Thank you.
You know, outside of titles and roles and responsibilities, I just think you are a fantastic person who you had success, but you didn't just get it. It wasn't handed to you. You earned it. Yes. And I think you made room for your opportunities by being curious.
Yes.
And not just by being curious, but then following up and asking the right questions.
Yes, yes.
And I think that makes you a brilliant leader.
Thank you.
If I asked you to define what redirection is for you through your lens, through your eyes, your perspective, what has redirection meant to you considering where you're coming from? You could have been a statistic, regardless of how much good you might have done for your community, to where you are now in your personal and professional life. What does redirection mean to you?
So when you think about it, and even the term redirection, so you're going along a path. And if you think about my journey, I was going along a path. If you want to say, before the days of even getting into the bank, that could have been a roadblock at some point. But the catalyst from different, if you want to say, input, redirected me. Because the friends I spoke about, some are deceased now, some are nowhere to be found, could have influenced me to take their path. But there was this inner thing, and I think my father, some amount of fear was there as well, because
of course,
he, just the way he talked, he has one of those baritone voice that I always say to people, I think I get more beaten than any other person I know. But I always said that maybe if he just talked, maybe that would have worked. But when I think about being the mischievous child I was, I said maybe the talk wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work on you.
No.
You know that.
So when I think about redirection, is that while I was going along that path, the different involvement, the church was one, the mentors, going to St. George's College, all of those things now helped me to make that move. Because even when I was going to George's, I had bad influence there as well, because you're talking about persons from all different types of society. Eh? But there was this inner thing in me as well, because while I always tell people, I love to laugh. So when you talk about being mischievous, I would do things just for a laugh. Yeah. While that was there, I know I was inside of me, that good person, because I wanted to contribute.
Good.
Because from early, I know the path that my so-called friends took was a dead end, because I knew where that was going.
And I think that was probably one of the most important places for you to start at.
Yes.
To at least understand that that's not what you wanted, and you knew what you had to do,
yes,
what you had to adjust and implement to not get there.
Yeah. So for me, when I got that opportunity, there was no looking back.
Good.
Because I said, I'm going to be that person that is going to be that standout.
Do you think you'll ever redirect to a different career?
A different career? Yes.
Really?
After banking.
After banking?
Yes, because banking takes too much
all of your time.
Yes. And, when I think about it, I think about motivational speakers.
I thought you were going to join like a football club, Arsenal or something like that.
To do what? Coach? Not to play. My bones can't do any more playing. No. One knee surgery here, don't play anymore.
No, but you are right. I think your story is beautiful. I think you show the possibilities. I think in a world that is teaching, or I guess showing our youngsters or demonstrating that high life, fast life, everything quick. Yeah. You come out of school, you want everything to be, and everything must be laid out. And it's just like, no, there's a process to this, and you have to try and build and try and build. And I think your story helps to reinforce that there's nothing wrong with starting here and working your way up legitimately.
That's correct.
Through hard work.
Integrity.
And keeping that integrity. Yeah. And so if you ever do decide to go in as a speaker, I think you will do an absolutely fantastic job, and you will change a lot of lives.
Thank you very much.
Peter Mohan, when you see me, Yeah, and the thing is, I wanted to get this interview with you for
a while,
for years now, and
That's
I'm so
right.
happy that I got you in the Redirection seat. Thank you for all you have done. Thank you for what you continue to do. Thank you for serving the persons who report into you, your co-workers, your customers. Thank you for serving them with a smile and a heart of gratitude and humility. I promise you, if we had more people like you, the world would be a better place. Thank you for making it Redirection with Terri-Karelle.
It's my pleasure.
Oh gosh, and I mean, I apologize to your wife for keeping you here,
She
past.
understands.
But we know that she's an understanding and compassionate woman.
That's correct.
Thank you so very much for listening. If you chose to listen to this podcast on your preferred podcast platforms, or thank you for watching. If there's something that was said that resonated, that made you say, yes, if Peter can do it, I can do it too. Go ahead, like, subscribe, leave your comments, and don't forget to use the hashtag TK Redirection. We will see you next week. Take care. Thanks to our partners, MasterCard, Heineken 00, Toyota Jamaica, Spaces, Commercial Concepts, Brescia, Beauty Brands by MDS, and Go Shore Courier.